Hello folks, so in this video we are going to be walking you through how to use the FINVIZ.com scanner. For those of you who are having a hard time finding stocks to trade, this may be the last video you ever need to watch on scanning for stocks. Now this is a very powerful financial scanner that allows you to have a bunch of different specific criteria that will allow us to find the most powerful positions. The reason that I'm making this video is because there are a ton of very expensive scanners and stock screeners that are coming onto the market today, but the truth is that a lot of these free scanners, although they do have ads, but a lot of these free scanners are still very powerful and still allow us to find some of the best positions. So I want to give you a complete walkthrough of one of the scanners that I use. This is FINVIZ.com, but of course the only thing that I ask in return for this video, this otherwise free video, is that you hit that ravishing like button. And also, of course, never forget to subscribe for more short, sweet, and simplified videos on how to trade the stock market. And if you would like more scanning tutorials in the future, comment below, #RavishingScanner. So when you first open up FINVIZ.com, you are confronted with this homepage. There is a lot of information that we could use on this homepage, folks. It's really a great homepage. But the first thing that I look for is the direction of the overall market. And this is something that you look for regardless of what you're trading. You want to know where the overall market is going, what the overall market is doing. And these three charts give you an idea of what the overall market's doing. We can see where the direction is, right? Is it flat? Is it going down? Looks like it's slightly going down. And then we can go over to our heat map, right? The heat map is very useful because it tells us which sectors are doing well, which sectors are doing poorly. Sometimes there's going to be one sector that stands out. If there's a sector that stands out, you may be more inclined to trade that one sector. For example, if all of services were green, you might be more likely to trade the services, right? Because that sector is doing really well. We'll talk more about that later. That's just a quick value that you get when looking at FINVIZ.com and looking at the heat map and the different charts. You get to see the overall directions and you get to see the hottest sectors. But moving forward into actually finding stocks to trade, these give a lot of great examples of different tickers to look more into. So when it comes to me, I love top losers. I love stocks that are oversold. I love stocks that are going down and have been very active, right? Downgrades, insider selling, earnings, negative earnings, right? Because when they get beat down, they almost always provide price action to trade off of, right? So generally speaking, throughout the day and usually after hours as well, I'm going to be looking through these lists to find stocks that fit certain criteria that I may be able to trade off of the next day or during certain time periods. For example, let's go ahead and look at NTRP. So NTRP is oversold. I might look to identify this and say, okay, well, if I'm going to look more into it, why is it oversold? Why did it gap down so much? And if it looks like this is going to be an overreaction play where there's a lot of upside, then I'm going to take a position based on other criteria such as, technical indications, but this isn't really a video where we're talking about why to get into a position, but that's basically what I would be looking at this stage. Same thing here, right? Got beat down. Why did it get beat down? Why is it so oversold? And I'd look more into it. Same thing here. This is not a position that I'd want to trade because it's trending down. It wasn't a quick sell-off, right? It wasn't a huge overreaction. This is just trending down. But I can go through and scan some of these biggest signals and find exactly where the best positions are. Another thing that I do like to look for is unusual volume. What companies have a massive increase in volume that's not usual? Right? Because if there's a massive increase in volume, there's probably some sort of big move happening, or there's some sort of big move that's coming up based on some sort of news catalyst that I didn't catch. Because there's so many different stocks and so many different opportunities within the market, there is just no way that we'd be able to keep up with all the news. So having this unusual volume scanner is really a great way to see what other investors are going into, what other positions, what other investors are buying shares of. Another thing that I do like is analyst downgrades, right? I love buying stocks that have just been downgraded by analysts because usually speaking, analysts, they're monkeys. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't put their money where their mouth is, and they're very biased. But a lot of people, they prescribe value to analysts. So if an analyst downgrades something, they're going to overreact. And since every reaction in the stock market is a dirty overreaction, it goes down, we could profit off the upside, right? Profit off the correction. Likewise, for those folks who love chasing winners, we have a new high section. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of chasing winners because I like to buy stocks that are discounted. I'm just cheap, right? That's just who I am. I'm a very cheap person. So I don't like to buy stocks that are a bad deal. I like stocks that are a good deal. New highs are they're usually not a good deal, right? But sometimes you'll find a momentum play that runs up massively, right? This ran up massively. But since, again, every reaction in the stock market is an overreaction, I don't like to buy stocks that have run up massively. Some people see a lot of value in it. I don't, right? But that's a personal trading style, and the option is here if you would like to use the new highs feature. Top gainers, same thing. I do love top winners, right? I love winners. But at the end of the day, I like them when they pushed back, right? If VIVE went down a little bit, if OCGN went down a little bit, I'd be like, okay, well, I could potentially see value in buying in if it starts pushing back and correcting itself. I like to buy in when it's a good deal. But anyways, this is a great way to find some of the best tickers and some of the best stocks to trade intraday. Okay, the next thing that I like to use, and I do recommend using this sparingly, but I really like this section because it tells you different tickers based on different criteria that FINVIZ sees as valuable. Now, I don't agree with all of the different criteria. I don't use all of these. I'm not a huge like triangle trader or a head and shoulders trader. I sort of think that a lot of people treat trading as sort of like they treat astrology, and they look at the stars and they sort of see patterns that, you know, I don't necessarily see, and I don't see value in it. But a lot of people see all these patterns, and if it works for them, great. I'm not going to say anything bad about them. But anyways, folks, these can be very useful because they identify different levels of patterns and different levels of support and resistance, but which can be extremely helpful if you don't yet know how to identify them, right? So if you scan over the ticker, it will actually show you a rotating or moving trend line where it shows the support and resistance. And this allows you to be able to identify these opportunities without actually having to go and look at it yourself and identify that. Now, I don't always agree with how they lay out the effective support and resistance. I tend to have a little bit more of a conservative viewpoint, but in terms of what they're doing, this is very helpful to identify opportunities that are trend lining and streamlining opportunities to just buy in at support and sell out at resistance. And I do like these. And again, of course, I do prefer stocks that are trending in a upward direction. A stock like FAZ is trending down, right? I love elevating factors. I don't like deprecating factors. Trending down is a deprecating factor. But you'll find a lot of interesting opportunities. I like their work with the wedges. They do a good job with that. I'm not the biggest wedge trader in the world. I do see value in wedges. This is a little too sporadic, right? They shouldn't have included it. But I do see value in some of these plays. And a lot of these are going to be trashed, right? But scanning through them can alert you to some of the best quality setups. And again, we trade like spoiled brats here at ZipTrader, so you want to find only the best setups, and this is a great way to find them, right? This is a great way to find opportunities that you otherwise may have missed. Okay, what else is on this page? I don't really look at the news because it's a little bit too wide scale where I don't think it's going to impact different stocks that I'm trading, but you can look at the news if you want. There's a whole news tab up here that you can look at. I don't look at the news. You know, I like to look at news for specific stocks that I'm trading, not so much the overall market, but that's up to you. Earnings release. So there's a few different ways that I find earnings releases. One of the ways is you can look on here and just find, October 15th. These are coming out with an earnings release. October 16th, these are coming out. I think this is before market and after market. Yeah, I think this is before and after. I usually use Weeble's calendar for earnings releases, so I don't really use this as much, but this is a great opportunity to find them just on the one page. Everything that you need really to get started as a trader is on this page, FINVIZ.com, and it's really great. So what else is useful about the FINVIZ scanner? Well, let's say that we're looking into a stock, let's say, I don't know, SES. We'll type in SES. And there are a bunch of ads, you can just X out of them. Okay, so with SES, we can go ahead and without actually going and digging into the balance sheets, which can take quite a while and some expertise to understand what you're really looking at, you can just go ahead and type that into the FINVIZ scanner, scroll down, and look at these three bars, right? So is this a good fundamental company? Well, their return on assets was negative 97%. Their return on equity was negative 323%, and their return on investment is 77%. So just these three lines can really tell you, hey, this is not a very strong fundamental company, right? This is another sketchy penny stock that got overhyped and then ran up and then ran down because every reaction in the stock market is an overreaction, so it got beat down afterwards. Not surprising. But if you're actually going to take a position here and you're like, oh, I think this is going to be a long-term play, well, look at this, right? This is a loser company. Loser, folks, and we love losers. But we don't hold on to losers when they're winning, thinking that they're always going to stay a winner, because eventually they're going to go back to a loser. A loser is always a loser. Only trade it when it is a winner for a short amount of time. They're only winners for a short amount of time. Every reaction in the stock market is an overreaction. Let's say we're looking at ADMA. Return on equity, negative, right? Insider transactions, people are selling. This is something that we can look at and say, okay, well, this isn't the strongest fundamental company, but they do have some strengths, right? Their sales are up. Their sales the past 5 years are up. Their earnings per share is up. Their current ratio is up, right? And so on and so forth. So you can say, okay, well, there is some strength in this company, but overall for investors, it hasn't fared well, right? This is still a very speculative play. Okay, so moving over to the actual scanner or the actual screener. So I like to go over to all so that we can choose as many settings as possible and we have it all laid out in front of us. Okay, so a few different things that I like to scan for. So for example, one of the things that I do like to scan for is the target price. Now, analysts set certain target prices that a lot of the sheep investors follow. So if a stock is way below the analyst target price, we know that there's sort of a level of monkey resistance, if you will, that pushes the price up. As for example, let's say that Apple is trading at $100 and the analysts think it's worth $300. If a piece of news comes out for Apple, all of a sudden, a bunch of sheep investors are like, oh my God, this is the news that's going to get it up to that target price. So I like to see stocks with a target price that's like 50% above. And then you can go through the list and scan to see where the target prices are. Now that's just one criteria that I like, but there's tons of other things that I like to adjust for. You can also adjust for earnings. If you want to find an earnings date, we have great opportunities for that. You can find the ones that are today before market open, today after market close, tomorrow, so on and so forth over the next 5 days. This is a great feature. I've covered this in a previous video, but this is a great feature to have because you can find all the earnings plays. Another thing that we like to look for is industries, right? Which sector is the hottest right now? We already know how to identify sectors, but how do you narrow down certain sectors, right? What if we want to narrow down basic materials, right? I don't know why you'd want to do that, but biotech's the big one. What if we just wanted to narrow down the biotech plays? We can go ahead and do that, and it updates us with all the biotech plays. That's a great feature to have. Sector specific is also useful. If you remember that heat map from back on the homepage, you could choose a specific sector which is hot, and then you could find stocks that are following that sector. Patterns, you can find stocks that are near support and resistance, stocks that are in a wedge, upwards or downwards wedge, channeling wedges, multiple tops, multiple bottoms, double top, blah, blah, blah. You could find patterns that you're looking for. Again, I don't value all of these patterns, but you might find some value in some of them, right? Specifically support and resistance. You could find stocks that are near your 50-day highs and lows. For those of you who love analyst opinions, you could find analyst recommendations that are strong buys or sells, right? Strong sells. And that's another great opportunity because a lot of times stocks are overreactive and then analysts can kind of pick up on that before anybody else can. But this is another opportunity to scan for that. And I've only covered a few of the options on here, so you can already see just how many different specifications and options there are. I don't know how all of them work. I don't see value in all of them. I don't use all of them. There's just a few that I use, but this is a great opportunity to scan through and find different specifications that you don't really get on a lot of the other scanners that we use. And another thing that's useful is the gap, right? If you're trying to find gap ups or gap downs. Of course, I'm a pessimist. I like stocks that have just been beaten down. Stocks that are down 10%, blah, blah, blah. They're likely going to be an overreaction, and we love buying overreactions. Like BME, remember BME ran up massively and then it got beat down like a rabid dog. BRN, this is a little bit too sporadic. We probably should have adjusted for volume, but whatever. PRQR, these are all stocks that have just gotten beaten down, right? Gap down massively. And we can keep going through until we see one that we like. This is one that I'd probably look more into because it's been beaten down so much, right? And you keep going through until you find the stock that you want. Another one that we like, you can also find gap ups, by the way. Stocks that have just gapped up massively. Look, this guy went up 417% today. This one went up 71%, right? So why did it go 71% up? Well, you could look into it and dive into the details and dive into the news that's coming out. Another thing that I like to look at is look at the target prices, right? We can see where are analysts ranking a certain stock, right? When it comes to ACHN, where are analysts ranking it? May 21st was the last ranking. That's pretty old, right? So we don't have that much information. But when they did rank it, it was at $5. Where are we trading now? Where are we trading now? $3.50. That's not a huge difference. Okay, let's look at more. Vive, this was another one that ran up massively. This is another one that ran up massively. Look, it got beat down like a rabid dog in a winter gnome in the summertime. Yet, it's now breaking out. Does that mean that we're now reversing the trend that was in a downward direction? Who knows, right? We need to look more into the stock. But this gives us, FinViz gives us the opportunity to spot these plays and then look at them at whatever platform or whatever style we're looking at them with. And again, analysts, they don't like this stock. Analysts think it's trash. Trash, folks. But that doesn't matter because we're looking at the technical analysis and we're using this to figure out exactly where all of our elevating and deprecating factors lie. What about this guy? What is he doing? Right? Breaking out. This draws different trend lines for you to trade off of. Right now, I'm not a big preacher of trend lining support and resistance, but there's a lot of value in that, right? I probably should talk about it more often. There's a lot of value in it. And we can go down here and look at the news and we can see what the analysts are saying. Again, sometimes they're outdated. Outdated analysts are worse than regular analysts, and that's already pretty bad. So make sure to use this as a way to find opportunities and not as a way to convince yourself to enter a position. At the end of the day, this This whole platform is excellent for finding opportunities. Not great for evaluating them though. So use this as a way to sort of start your due diligence and then go on and research it a little bit more, and then use a plan when you're trading these stocks. We have a ton of opportunities and we have a ton of videos on the channel that go into how to have a plan, how to approach a chart like this, and how to break it down. And we also have a free ZipTrader Circle Facebook group where you could ask me, you could ask others, and you can ask a ton of different questions and follow up with other traders as to where the best opportunities are and how to take advantage of them. But anyways, folks, I recommend that you go ahead and you go to finviz.com and you practice using this. Practice different specifications and see if you could find stocks that you like, stocks that fit criteria that you're looking for, and so on and so forth. But I do hope this video is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us below or join our free ZipTrader Circle Facebook group, the link to which is in the description below. Remember, one of the most important parts of scanning for stocks is always remembering to hit that ravishing like button. And also, of course, subscribing to keep up to date with our short, sweet, and simplified videos on how to trade the stock market. Anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed this video and you saw some value in it. And I'll see you in the next video.